Sever these three stings of passion, guile, and vengeance. No food you ever taste and no thing you ever build will satisfy you as much as my gifts. A quote from the Book of Joy. Calistria is known as the severed sting. She is the goddess of love, vengeance, and trickery. Her alignment is chaotic neutral. Her domains include chaos, charm, knowledge, luck, and trickery. Her favored weapon is the whip, and centers of worship include Absalom, Gaut, Kionen, next the river kingdoms, the Shakals, Taldor, and Varissia. Her nationality is considered elf. Calistria is the most widely worshipped elven goddess on Golarion, an ancient deity with a long memory for old slights, at once mysterious, alluring, temperamental, and passionate. Although most of her worshippers are elves, she is popular with other races as well, for at some point almost everyone has felt the fire of lust, engaged in trickery, or been driven to revenge. She is not so much a spiritual guide for the elven people as a cornerstone of their culture, never pushing them to act, but always ready to assist when the time comes for action. The Savored sting is a sultry manifestation of everything in elves that is fascinating to the other races, attracting men and women alike with her raw sexual magnetism. Her beauty is typically characterized as sensual, desirable, and arousing, or described in more vulgar terms. Gazing on Calistria's clothed body, viewers wonder what she looks like naked. Her nude form drives their curiosity to even more intimate places. Although she considers herself female, Calistria has been known to take on a male form that is attractive enough to make any mortal flushed and weak in the knees. She is mischievous, perplexing, devious, and silver-tongued, disarming her most powerful rivals with pretty words that, upon careful reflection, reveal themselves as humiliating insults. She surrenders by convincing enemies to hand over their weapons, leads suitors on for decades with hints of outrageous rewards, and outwits the most brilliant mortals as an afterthought. Though her sense of humor is rich and sharp, she considers silly jokes and crude pranks beneath one who can convey an hour's speech in one small gesture, and a lifetime of emotion with a careful look. Lies are her meat and drink, half-truths are her favorite wine, and double innuendos are a luscious dessert. Calistria enjoys a quick resolution of petty affronts, but she is patient, unforgiving, and merciless when more seriously offended, willing to punish the offender with exacting artistry beyond the ken of mortals. Calistria does not forgive, she does not forget, and any evidence to the contrary is part of her plan to sting a foe in the most painful way possible after he believes the threat of vengeance is long past. She is a goddess of vengeance, not justice, and feels no compulsion to stop a taking an eye for an eye. If she pushes beyond the response others might deem appropriate, it would serve as a lesson to those who would get in her way. Though gracious and personable to those who haven't drawn her ire, Calistria is fickle, changing loyalties as best suits her needs and whims. Her changeability is not malicious. Rather, she is uninterested in relationships becoming too strong or too emotional, believing such bonds to be foolish. Most of her partners and allies accept the affection she grants them and then move on, but those who persist in the chase after she has tired of being their prey find her claws sharp and certain. She sees love only as a weakness, a needless byproduct of physical pleasures. Calistria welcomes the worship of any mortal who lusts, deceives, or seeks revenge. She hears the prayers of the good, evil, unjustly accused, selfish, moral, criminal, and love-struck alike. Regardless of methods or motives, if a mortal's actions touch her concerns, she takes an interest in the outcome and may aid in achieving it. Her worshippers are thus diverse, but mostly transitional, only seeking her attention when they need her. She, in turn, only engages with others when her interest is piqued. This satisfies her, and then she does not ask for any more. Some mortals, unable to emulate or understand her shifting interests and allegiances, accuse Calistria of being evil, but in truth she is simply amoral, eschewing right, wrong, and justice, because she knows that the universe is not a fair place. If others choose to follow her path, so be it. If some are hurt by a decision, she stands as a reminder that every creature has the right and the responsibility to avenge their injuries. Calistria is usually depicted as a beautiful elven woman, wearing a figure-hugging black dress accented with gold, often with black or golden silk as a drape falling from her arms or drawn seductively across her face. Her eyes are dark and mysterious, but sometimes flash gold with passion or anger. She is commonly shown with giant wasps, her favorite creature, for unlike bees, wasps can sting again and again without dying. In her male form, she usually wears a masculine version of her normal shape, with black leggings and those loose golden jerkin or cape, eyes smoldering with barely contained passion. Depending on the views of the surrounding society, Calistria's worshippers are also not afraid of depicting her in more seductive and scandalous attire or situations, and sexually explicit art featuring the goddess is common. Calistria's holy symbol is 3 daggers pointing outward from a circle, representing her 3 aspects. Many of her clergy carry daggers in her honor. Most of her priests are clerics or bards, though in some places more exotic spellcasters are the norm for her clergy. And even some non-spellcasters reach positions of moderate importance in her priesthood based on their cunning and achievements. Her titles include the Savored Sting, the Lady in the Room, the Unquenchable Fire, as well as many other vulgar epitaphs bestowed by those outside of the faith. Though any individuals bearing grudges may pray for Calistria's favor until they have been satisfied, typically lifelong worshippers of Calistria are prostitutes, spies, hedonists, enchanters, and illusionists. Rare non-evil assassins pursuing a justified blood debt or former slaves seeking revenge on their masters might also call on her aid. Some crusaders, particularly elven ones, pray to Calistria to help achieve holy vengeance on their targets, and a fair number of shady merchants and con artists venerate her trickery aspect. Though all races are welcome in the church, elves, humans, and humanoids of mixed race are by far the most common, whereas very few dwarves worship her. Even among those avenging slights against a clan or kin, Calistria's shifting loyalties and disproportionate responses often seem shameful to dwarven society. Elven society, on the other hand, is by far the most accepting of her worship, as most elves see Calistria's independence from commitment as the only path of sanity for members of a race that lives centuries. Calistria shows her favor with ease in obtaining companionship, heightened physical pleasure, and easy marks for schemes or acts of vengeance. Those who displease her often find themselves plagued by impotence, inability to achieve sexual satisfaction, or angry wasps with an unerring ability to sting in sensitive places. Sometimes she delays the manifestation of her ire, allowing strings of positive events to culminate in an eventual catastrophic failure to heighten the sting. Ceremonies honoring Calistria may involve ritual sex, but generally are not elevated to the orgasmic excess described in the salacious stories of her detractors, though such rites do exist and are often extremely popular. Most ceremonies take place in the temple, or outdoors in the natural surroundings and settings typical of elven rituals. Regular worship services include invocations of the goddess's blessing over sexual encounters, the congregation's encouragement and promises of aid to members seeking vengeance, the consumption of spiced wine, and the performance of pageants enhancing with illusion and theatrical tricks. Special rituals conducted as needed include invocations of the goddess's blessing when the worshippers begin a pursuit of a desired lover, divinations to determine her approval or disapproval of set courses of revenge, intuition rites for those who wish to devote themselves to the faith, and birth and death ceremonies. A typical Calistrian temple is a converted mansion with many rooms that can be locked for privacy. Each city can hold multiple temples, which often vary widely in their interpretations of Calistria's wisdom, and sometimes engage in serious and bloody doctrinal disputes. Even within a given temple, arguments can be quite dangerous, as few feuds escalate as drastically as between those two Calistrians. The Savored Sting's faith is as changeable as the goddess herself. Each temple tends toward good, evil, or neutrality, and this influences the activities that take place there. Good temples elevate both the sanctity of pleasure achieved, their doctrines decreeing those sexually satisfied to be more benevolent toward others and less prone to violence, and the drive of pleasure anticipated, seeing lust as a spur to creativity and ambition. The temples function as salons, ideal places to socialize, hear news, and be seen, though the respect for privacy makes them both good places for clandestine discussions as well. Evil temples are much like thieves' guilds, places to plant rumors, seek evidence of unfaithful lovers, and make shady plans while heightening the sharper and more excessive aspects of desire and its fulfillment. Neutral temples, and elven temples in particular, try to mix both, taking a casual transactional approach to entertaining the lovely and lusty, and functioning as hubs for gossip and rumors, while avoiding more violent plans for vengeance. Many temples encourage wasps to nest under their eaves. Guided by magic, these insects leave the residents alone, but react angrily to trespassers. Wealthier temples may employ giant wasps as guardian creatures and spider-eaters as flying steeds, while evil ones may bind abyssal wasp swarms to guide and guard the temple. Some harvest venom from the wasps and use them as temple guards or for sale. The practice of building shrines has never really caught on in Calistria's church. Life itself is a pilgrimage for Calistrians, and so they have no once-in-a-lifetime destinations of sacred nature. Ancient standing stones at the sites of old temples might bear phallic or yonic carvings, and flat stones might be carved with the names of acts
of great vengeance that took place at the site. But in general, the Church prefers to preserve its symbols and history in stories and adages. The Church sees prostitution as a sacred calling of power and pleasure, and its clergy are adamant about ensuring the safety of those who engage in sex as a profession. Temples do not make their priests into victims and accept only willing adults as initiates. In cities where the Church holds sway, residents tread carefully around courtesans and streetwalkers alike, lest an abused escort call on the temple for aid in avenging herself. All clergy undergo extensive training in the arts of conversation, body language, and seduction. Even the most uncomely or disagreeable priest knows how to turn on the charm at the right time, often surprising those who witness the change. Others may work alone or in groups, as spies, investigators for individuals or the government, or smugglers of exotic materials. Calistria's church is organized democratically, and each priest receives a vote in temple affairs. Its hierarchy is very casual, with priests valued more for their ability to persuade others, or feared for their history of revenge, than their magical power. The high priest or priestess of a temple is addressed as Revered One, but otherwise titles are often unique to their bearers. Individuals might earn various honorifics based on deeds assigned by the head of the temple or customized for the recipient, such as of the Gentle Hands, the Heartless Avenger, of the 100 Faces, or the Shameless. Most temples focus on local issues and ignore the works of their counterparts unless actively engaging in a vendetta against them. Calistria's emphasis on personal freedom means that there is no typical day for one of her worshippers. Good clergy address the goddess's vengeance aspect by assisting patrons in finding legal recourse against those who wrong them, though they may resort to public shaming of guilty parties when the offense is inconsiderate rather than illegal, such as shoddy business practices, slander, or business promises that are broken, or when the legal system does not provide satisfaction. They engage in sacred prostitution, and to a small extent they work as matchmakers, though usually for sexual interest rather than marriage. Evil priests seduce others as leverage or future blackmail on behalf of themselves or clients, exchange valuable secrets, and make plots to unseat influential leaders or strong-arm reluctant merchants. A few work as thieves or assassins for the church, or even for the highest bidder, acting anonymously or under a pseudonym. The most alluring members demand payment in the form of secrets, exacerbating their clients' lusts in order to drive their prices higher and fanning the flames of jealousy to inspire acts of revenge. Some lead double or triple lives as spies in extensive secret plots. Evil priests tend to be very competitive, trying to outdo their rival in feats of intimacy, trickery, and vengeance, and this, as a result, has many forced to wander for their own safety. Priests of neutral temples advise petitioners on how best to pursue vengeance, usually urging them to find non-injurious recompense, though if the offense is great enough, they are not adverse to giving advice or explicit aid in fulfilling a debt of blood. Viewing knowledge as valuable, but neither good nor evil, they often fill their temples' coffers by brokering information, remaining aloof from the help or harm done with it. In some communities, a lone priest may be greatly respected and feared for what he knows and the careful web of peace he brokers with flesh and promises. Alchemy, herbalism, and potion-making are common pastimes among priests, and some make a living selling potions and poisons, aphrodisiacs, love potions, contraceptives, abortifacients, and their counteragents. Even good priests sell non-lethal poisons designed to embarrass or humiliate the target, such as laxatives, those that stimulate drunkenness, and so on. The followers of Norgorber carefully watch Calistria's priesthood to make sure they aren't overstepping their bounds or undercutting prices. If a temple has guardian wasps, the priest might be responsible for caring for them or magically influencing them, and may become used to the stings and resistant to the venom. Some keep unusually large specimens as pets, and a few priests are well known within the church for their cat-sized pet wasps, with abilities similar to a familiar. While temples' rituals can vary, one of the most common is the rite of the triple sting, a test faced when a temple initiate completed his novitate. In this test, the initiate must disguise himself and, in this new guise, seduce someone that has wronged him. The candidate must play up the target's lust for him in a lure and use it to guide her into revealing the secrets that, if publicly exposed, would humiliate or even ruin her. Or, if she is no such secrets, into activities that could do the same. Once he has obtained this power over her, he must expose her vulnerability in public, and, his vengeance accomplished, reveal his true identity. Once his sponsors in the temple have judged his attempt as worthy of Calistria's approval, the priest undergoes his initiation into the priesthood. This usually starts with a fast from sunset to sunset, alone in the temple, that he might experience the hunger that drives people to revenge. At sunset, a masked priest leads him into a private chamber where he drinks from a cup of sharply spiced honeyed wine, that he may taste the fire, the sweetness, and the intoxication that together comprise lust. Masked clergy members attend him, and he selects a partner. The priests remove his clothes and burn them, discarding his old identity and welcoming him into his new one as a servant of the savored sting. Hallucinogenic herbs laced into the wine heighten both the mystical aspect and the disorientation of the experience as the initiate couples with a priest that may or may not be the one that he chose. Some clerics who have dared to remove their partner's mask during the rite claim that the goddess herself lay beneath it, though such claims are usually dismissed as braggadocio or the effects of psychoactive herbs in the wine. After the effects wear off, the new priest is escorted to the ritual bath and given his first set of clerical robes. His sponsors declare him sealed to the goddess and begin filling him in on the temple's secrets. Calistria's church is not known for its altruistic healing, though its priests have been known to sell cures for money or favors. Sometimes they heal without demanding payment, saying only that they will collect a service at some point in the future. Priests that are concerned with the goddess's more lustful side are usually very acrobatic, able to bluff their way through things or diplomatize. They can disguise as well as escape through different means of flexibility, also able to intimidate those around them and sense the true intentions of those that they are dealing with. Priests more attracted to her vengeful aspect study methods that aid them in finding their targets, such as being able to diplomatize with those in authority or in tracking, disguising themselves, intimidating others, and knowledge in the local area and being able to sense the motive of those around them. Priests attracted to her trickster side usually focus on skills appropriate to thieves, deceivers, or diplomats, depending on the type of deception they enjoy.
Anti-Paladins of Calistria do not demand great things of others, but rather seek to emulate the Savored sting in their manner. Most are women. Their ranks are filled with those devoted to bloody vengeance and the shining lusts that spark it. Their tenets include the following adjuncts: My life is my path, and none will sway me from it. I devote myself to the pursuit of my passions. I take what I desire, by trick or by force. If others resent my actions, they may attempt to take vengeance against me. All slights against me will be repaid tenfold. I am the instrument of my own justice. If I am wronged, I will take vengeance with my own hands.
A follower of Calistria declares himself either a thrill-seeker and hedonist, or someone who never forgives a slight. If he carries vengeance in his heart, or a strong desire for the pleasures of the flesh, then he will find a willing ally in Calistria. In his mind, the world is a garden of delights, and he is determined to experience them all. If something stands in his way or causes him injury, he is more than willing to take revenge until his enemies can call for mercy. A follower of Calistria is not necessarily cruel, though he can be, nor is he evil unless it suits his natural predisposition to be so. While he might enjoy crushing his foes, he might also find an equal satisfaction in bringing joy to another and allowing the person to find bliss and release in the union of their bodies. When someone worships the Savored sting, he chooses above all to live life on his own terms, without the moral compass others might try to impose on him. Calistria has long been a favored goddess of the elves because of her focus on personal freedom, and it may be that the elves' long lifespans are what make her hard-nosed approach to individual liberty so popular. After all, some relationships grow cold after a few centuries, and an elf who follows Calistria is always free to resign his affections. Half-elves and other half-breeds who were the product of exotic unions often support her in a way of embracing their heritage, and the gnome's constant search for variety and novelty make her a natural fit for them as well. Calistria herself is generally imagined in the form of an elf, yet seems perfectly willing to accept the worship of anyone with a slight to avenge or a desire to make his body an altar. Formal clothing for the Calistrian clergy is generally scant, typically dark leather or yellow silk that covers little and conceals even less, often augmented with henna dyes on the palms of the hands and in narrow bands on the arms, though individual clergy members tailor their clothing to reflect their own styles of seduction. Some priests like to add other little accents to their clothing, like a wasp's colors, but most eventually grow out of this habit, as the insect represents the goddess but is not inherently divine or worthy of emulation. Adventurer priests favor gold jewelry and gold plating or decorations in their armor. Church paraphernalia is usually made of slender wood and fine gold, and often includes erotic carvings or sculpture. Although Calistria's followers recommend several works of theater and literature as shining examples of how to execute the perfect seduction or revenge, the only text they hold as sacred is the Book of Joy. Some versions of this guide to passion include illustrations of sexual positions, instructions on reading and manipulating others' emotions, or collected anecdotes of satisfying revenge schemes to address various offenses. The sections include, in each temple's unique copy of the text, say much about the temple's leadership. Conservative cities sometimes make it illegal to possess a copy, but mischievous Calistrians print portions of the book as one-page penny Bibles, sometimes showing the most erotic portions of the manuscript in a hope of eliciting controversy and curiosity in the readers. Calistria's church as a whole has no set holidays, although each temple has established its own holidays to commemorate the avenging of old slights or great conquests and epic acts of trickery. To punctuate their vengeful desires, Calistria's worshippers circulate several bitter sayings and deadly sentiments. I stab thee with my heart. When carefully planned vengeance comes to fruition, the satisfaction of it is as exhilarating as an intimate act. The faithful whisper this saying as their daggers strike home, leave it in notes when explaining their target's downfalls, and crow it during particularly juicy acts of revenge. Oddly, in the rare cases where members of the church pursue genuine love, couples use this expression to indicate their intensity of their feelings for one another. Love the food and not the chef. This saying is used as an admonition against the transgression of falling in love with the target of one's lust. It is also a reminder not to become consumed by vengeance to the exclusion of all other things. There is more to life than revenge, and there are many joys one can experience even while seeking retribution. Calistria's interactions with other gods are complex and strewn with contradictions. Some stories even suggest that she is the force behind the creation or destruction of certain deities. Each temple has its own idea about which stories are true and which are false, and these differences only escalate the conflicts between factions. All agree that the other gods treat her very carefully and respectfully, as they fear her reprisal for an unintended slight. In general, Calistria and Shaelin get along well, as erotic love leads to sex and common lust can turn into love, though Calistria believes Shaelin's insistence on love is a weakness. Calistria finds Urgathoa distasteful, but respects her lust for life. She is intrigued by Norgabur and willing to work with him, though he is never quite sure if he is somehow being manipulated. She respects Desna, but thinks she's a little too hung up on her failures and setbacks. Calistria and Caden Kalian are on very friendly terms, and just how friendly is the subject of such speculation. Calistria's worshippers are open to dealing with members of most other faiths, provided it suits their needs or desires at the moment. Most of them evaluate people as individuals rather than members of groups or followers of creeds. While they are implacably vengeful if roused, Calistrians rarely judge a person on the basis of social standing, ethnicity, or personal history. Their attitudes toward members of faiths they consider prudish range from amused to contemptuous, and some take a certain impish pleasure in seducing those
with which such faiths and beliefs are present and prominent. Every person presents an opportunity for rewarding exchanges of money, information, or caresses, so Calistrians are generally amiable until they are wronged. They tend to be found in cities where it's easiest to indulge their hedonism and find willing partners, and have little interest in associating with those who would get in the way of their revels. Followers of Cade and Calian tend to get along well with Calistria's faithful, and Shalonites focused on the beauty of eroticism often find common interest with Calistrians, who are ever attentive to the eroticism of beauty. Despite her neutral nature, Calistria calls the fields of Elysium home. The fickle goddess often shifts her realm's location and size, and it's not uncommon for those seeking its borders to be unable to find it, or those who prefer to avoid it to stumble unprepared into its gardens of sensual delights. In this sense, Calistria's realm uniquely matches the goddess herself: beautiful, inviting, playful, and completely untrustworthy. Visitors might gradually notice the slight buzzing of wasps in the deep and otherwise silent forest, and then quite abruptly find themselves wandering a hedge maze of roses, or standing before one of the Savored Sting's palatial Baroque manors. Though Elysium may focus on positive and benevolent aspects of freedom and chaos, Calistria's minions don't always take the same tact, and her pleasure palaces can be extremely dangerous for the unwary. In addition to the servitor race, the Vendonoptrixes, Calistria often sends the following entities to further her causes. Minotherian. Appearing alternatively as a perfect elf or a bear-sized wasp, Calistria's herald maintains an ardent curiosity about mortal elves. The Minotherian is a creature of spirit, but has a physical body, and sometimes seeks attractive elves, using her elven form, to satisfy her carnal desires. This overwhelming experience is a sign of great favor among the devout. Threv, a unique protean. This frog-like, shape-changing sorcerer has gray skin and strangely expressive eyes. Obsessed with vengeance, he is often the agent of Calistria's ire in the mortal world when she isn't angered enough to send her herald. He works cheaply for mortals seeking revenge, although those that lie to him to get a discount find themselves the target of his ire. Tordabar, a unique chaos beast. Though most chaos beasts alternate between horrible forms, this strange being usually appears as a largely fleshy mass with heads, mouths, eyes, hands, hair, and various organs sprouting randomly, being reabsorbed in a short order. In battle, it takes on a more dangerous form. Although it accepts payments for service in coin or magic, it prefers sexual favors. Whether the summoner is male or female, it does not speak except to coo and moan, preferring telepathic communication. Velvet Wing, unique Vendonoptrix. A tan elven seductress with slightly ragged insect wings. This beautiful Vendonoptrix is often mistaken for a succubus. Her kisses and other intimate acts drain intelligence, wisdom, or charisma, her choice, and she is adept at mimicking a specific person's voice and mannerisms.
Hello everyone, I hope you enjoyed Calistria, the Savored Sting. Next time is Lamashtu, the Mother of Monsters. Stay tuned for that, and as always, have a great day, God bless, and enjoy.
This content was made possible by travelers and viewers like you. Thank you.